Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Our next speaker for this panel is Beena Sarwar. She will be speaking on the role of women in sustaining and subverting cultural heritage.
My name is Beena Sarwar. I'm a journalist and I'm a peace activist from Pakistan. I've lived in Karachi and Lahore most of my life. I've moved to Boston in 2011. And since I've moved here for the last, it's been almost 14, 15 years now, 14 years, I have got to know a little bit more about the community here. Most of you have been here for more than 20 or 30 years. Can I have a show of hands who's been here for more than 20 years? More than 30 years? So everybody's been here pretty much more than 20 or 30 years, which is more than me. Can we have the light back? No, that. Yeah, because you can see me, right? So I've been working on. So you're all, most people here are from India, or from Pakistan, or have some linkages there. I know I came across a young man from Bangladesh also. So how many people here have linkages to India? Pakistan. Some. That's my mother. And Bangladesh. Where's the Bangladesh? A couple of people from Bangladesh. So I'm going to, in my presentation, I'm going to mention Sri Lanka also, as you can see. So I'm talking about, I was asked to talk about celebrating women's voices and the role of women in uplifting cultural heritage. So I said, I don't want to talk about women upholding cultural heritage, I want to talk about subverting cultural heritage, right? Because what is cultural heritage? So, what parts of cultural heritage do women uphold and what parts do men uphold? So can I just have people just shout, calling out, what parts of cultural heritage do you think women uphold? Anybody?
Fashion.
Fashion?
Rituals and customs.
Rituals and customs. Women uphold rituals and customs. Fashion. What else do women uphold?
Tradition.
Values. Religion. Education. So women uphold these. What cultural values do men uphold? There's a flag. Men don't uphold any culture.
Good food.
Good?
Good food.
Good food. That. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So. Sorry. Patriarchy. Men uphold patriarchy. And women. Do women also uphold patriarchy? Women also uphold patriarchy. So I'm going to. This brings me to the next part of what I'm going to say. So here's what I'm saying here. Women and men both uphold different cultural values, but also sometimes the same cultural values, and sometimes they overlap. And then I come to the question of what are feminine traits and what are masculine traits. So can I just have a few, like, what are feminine traits? What are masculine traits? Let's go with feminine first. Leadership is women, but is it also masculine? Yes. Okay, what else?
Nurturing.
Nurturing, women, yes. Do men also nurture sometimes?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes. What else? What other feminine traits are there? Courage. So can we say that men also can display courage? Yes. Okay, what are the other traits that are considered to be feminine?
Protection.
Wait, protection? Emotional? Sorry? Tolerance? What else? Anybody from here? Patience? Okay. Selfies? Women take more selfies than men for sure. And what about, so these are some feminine traits that we just talked about, but we also agreed that some of them are also masculine traits, right? What about masculine traits? What are traits that you consider to be masculine? Protection? Empathy? Okay, alright. There are some men who can be empathetic, but here's my point. Here's my point. My point is that these traits. Hello, everyone. Hi, can I have your attention, please? Because I'm only going to be here for a few more minutes. And I don't do this very often, and I don't like to stand up here. And so, when I teach my classes, I also say I want full attention, so thank you. I teach journalism as well, and I'm a filmmaker also, and I've been working with peace issues between India and Pakistan for many years, as some of you know, and also South Asia. Now, we just talked about some feminine traits and some masculine traits, and I think that what we can agree is that although some are considered to be masculine and some are considered to be feminine, I think we can all agree, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that men can have traits that are considered to be feminine, and women can have traits that are considered to be masculine. Would you say that's fair? Yes. Right? So now, the kind of posturing we are seeing, I mean, everybody here, I'm sure, knows what's going on in India and Pakistan right now, with what's going on and the warmongering and all that. What kind of, let me just go back to that. So, what kind of, the warmongering that we are seeing versus the peacemongering that some of us are doing, okay? What we are seeing, the kind of sloganeering, that is, the politicians and security establishments are, you know, articulating, that the media on both sides, I'm a journalist, I have friends who are journalists in India and Pakistan and Kashmir, and I've been speaking to them since Tuesday. I've been on the phone non-stop with people, messaging. So I've been speaking to people on both sides there, and then I'm here right now with all of you, and all of you have been here, as we just talked about. Some of you have been here for 20 years, 30 years, but everybody, I mean, we're here because you believe in South Asia, you believe in that home, you believe in that country that is also your home. This is your home, but so is that, right? Right?
Yes.
Right. And so, this is taken forward by the media. All we are hearing is that, you know, things are so bad and all that. And so I want to share that the overwhelming narrative is what is considered to be what Maria Ressa, the Nobel laureate from the Philippines, anybody heard of Maria Ressa from the Philippines, the Nobel laureate? I know you have, you're a journalist. Who else? Maria Ressa, anybody else have heard of Maria Ressa? So Maria Ressa is the Filipino journalist. Guys, it's going to be a bit of a time. Anyway, this is also part of our culture. Beautiful bridal show coming up, but that's a whole different thing. So this is the media. What we are seeing is, I would say it's like AstroTurf, which is fake grass, because on the ground, nobody wants war, right? Yes?
Yes, you're right.
Right?
Yes.
So what can we do? All right, what can we do? So I would say that what we can do is what they say on the planes: put on your own oxygen mask first, look after yourself. I'm so glad everybody had chai and samosas. That's key to looking after yourself, is have chai and samosas. And also to be the change, right? And how many of us participate in reactions online, forwarding, WhatsApp forwards? This is somebody has said something horrible, I'm going to say something nasty back and forth, forward. So I'm not going to go into this, but the QR code is up there if you want to use it. This is an online tool that we've created at Safar News to help you to become credible social media users, and that includes WhatsApp. So please, it's a code of ethics and responsibility pledge, because everybody who has a smartphone now is pretty much like a para-journalist, right? Because you have paramilitary, you have paralegals, you have paramedics, and everybody with a smartphone is pretty much like a para-journalist, except that you don't have the training or the editorial oversight, and people don't know how to exactly engage online in a way that is credible and thoughtful and doesn't become part of the problem. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
So I hope that some of you will go on, and all of you actually will go on and check it. And if you can't scan the QR code, it's at safarnews.com/social. And it's a small training tool. There's a pledge online. You can endorse the pledge. You can add your name to. There's several very top journalists, lawyers, students, activists who have endorsed it already. But I'm not here to plug that or something. But it's just part of this whole situation right now, as I see it. So, nuclear warheads and weapons. Nothing feminine about those, right? And huge danger. Comic relief. Who will go further in South Asia? This is a cartoon that I drew with a friend of mine in Kathmandu, Kunda Dixit. He was drawing this cartoon, and you can see the backs of two naked little boys having a peeing contest. And where the pee, I'm sorry if this offends anybody, it's supposed to be funny, but it's kind of like morbid humor. So where the pee lands, there's a nuclear cloud. Because this kind of childish behavior, I think, what's going on. It's not adult, it's not mature. Adult behavior, and you'll be talking to people later on today about mental health and child and health for children, and I think that a lot of that could apply to our leadership as well. So it was published in Himal magazine under the title "Who Will Go Furthest in South Asia?" It's a no-win situation if we continue down this spiral.
But why do you think India and Pakistan is a pissing contest?
So let me finish and then we'll get into. We're not going to questions right now. We'll go into that. We'll go into that later.
It's not a pissing contest.
Peace is.
We have a question
India and
and
Pakistan is
answer.
not a pissing contest.
I'm not saying that. Excuse me.
If there is any issue, it is Pakistan. That is
Sorry, sir.
There is a
Excuse me.
Q&A.
I'm not here to take one or the other side. I'm not taking.
Let us not.
Sorry.
Let
I'm
us
going to
not.
continue.
Let us not talk about
Peace is a
politics.
process. Okay, here we go. This is what happens. This is a prime example of what happens. One person stands up and starts getting in the way, and everybody else is listening quietly. One person comes up, and this is what happens.
Hello, this is not a political
This
forum.
is Exhibit A. I would just say peace is a process, not an event. All right, I'm going to move on. There have been decades. We have been having.
Please.
Sorry, do you mind sitting down, sir? Do you mind?
No, we don't want politics here.
This is not politics. We're not talking about politics. I'm trying to talk. I'm talking about that we have had decades.
Let's move on that.
Peace, I'm talking about peace is a process, not an event. Okay? Peace is a process, not an event. Everybody here, I think, wants peace. I want to just say this again. This is a quote from a woman who is from the Naga women. So this is a woman from the northeast of India who talks about peace is a process, not an event. Okay? We have been working on the ground, decades of vigils and statements and walks. This is Asma Jahangir, Nandita Das, Kuldeep Nayyar, very respected names, and walks for peace. And Asma Jahangir once said that if you throw open the gates at Wagah border, there will be a flood on either side because people want to visit each other, taste each other's food, music, and all of that. This is a peace rally. My mother, who's here, we were at a peace rally in Karachi in 2003. We could not do this today because I think of the social media issue which I mentioned earlier, which is translated on the ground because there's a lot of aggression now, and if you go out there talking about peace on the ground in a situation where people are being nationalistic on a day like 14th August, it's very difficult now. This was in 2003. So going to go back to that social media pledge I mentioned. Meanwhile, the suffering continues, the human suffering, the divided families, the cross-border brides. Over the last week, I've spoken to several women who are married across the border in India or Pakistan, and they are having real issues in visiting their families and continuing to live where they're living. There are stranded prisoners, there are forgotten prisoners of war, including on both sides. This is a picture you might remember, these two brothers who were separated for more than 70 years. They met at Kartarpur corridor, and the following year the older brother passed away. And this is a story of a Rajput Soda family the entire family is in India, he's in Pakistan, he has to, his daughter just got married there, he sent me an invitation, obviously I couldn't go. But these are the real issues of real people on the ground. This is about the fisher folk on both sides that get trapped, and when they get released, they are sent 1,000 miles north to cross the border and then 1,000 miles south. Sometimes they die in jail. Recently, an Indian fisherman committed suicide in a Pakistani jail, and I cannot imagine the pain of that family on the other side. This is from a woman called Sini Maraj in Punjab, and she's in Delhi, who I met her some years ago. Her father was disappeared in the 1971 war, and she's now a psychiatrist, and she's been working to release the prisoners of war from Pakistan, but they have not been found. This is a very beautiful video. I don't think I can play it here. But this is a woman who, a young woman who did this. She said, I fight for peace between India and Pakistan. She lost her father when she was 2 years old. And I've got the tiny URL there. It's YT-VOR-2016. And this video led to this thing called Profile for Peace, where hundreds of people on both sides held up placards saying, dear leaders, do not let the actions of a few violent men write the future of many people like me who want peace. So this was then, this is almost 10 years ago, and now we're back to that situation. Meanwhile, we've been colonizing our own people, the security state paradigm, conflict zones at home, border flashpoints. And I just want to go back to 1983, to the Women's Action Forum in Pakistan that came out against the so-called Islamic laws of General Zia. The police came out there, they were beaten up, and they, Asma Jahangir was one of them, and they, because we're talking about South Asia, the Women's Action Forum did an apology for the women of Bangladesh in 1996, which the states have not yet done. And this is Visakha Dharmadasa from Sri Lanka. She founded the Association of War-Affected Women and the Parents of Servicemen Missing in Action in 2000. Her son, her younger son, was a colonel in the Sri Lankan army who disappeared, and she has never seen him since then, since 2000. She started this thing, and I'm bringing this up here to show that it's not just India and Pakistan, it's the region, and I mentioned Bangladesh a little while ago as well. And this is a picture she sent me yesterday. She brings together communities, the Tamil, Sinhala, Buddhist, and Muslim and Catholic families. In Pakistan, there's a women-led rights, women's movement in Balochistan. What is driving the biggest women-led rights movement in Balochistan's recent history? Women, girls, whose fathers are missing, brothers are missing, husbands are missing, and they are out there doing this work. In India, in Kashmir, there's an association of the parents of disappeared people. So it's happening everywhere, and we are at South Asia Peace Action Network. We are talking about the need to institute soft borders, to bring up human rights in your own countries before you point fingers at others, and to collaborate and cooperate in all areas. And many of you here are signatories to that charter. I'm going to just end here with saying that this is the narrative we are trying to amplify at Sapan News. And Pragya, who's here, is going to hand out some cards to all of you. Pragya is a journalist from Lucknow, and we're working together, and I'm very happy to have her here. She has traveled all over India doing a video series called Chalat Musafir, and she just finished her master's at Rutgers University. She was a Fulbright Nehru Fellow, and she's going to hand out some index cards, and we'd just like to have your comments, your feedback, anything you'd like to share with us. And I'm just ending. And I'm just going to go through, going very quickly through some of the kind of stories we've been doing. Yeah, I'm just ending. After Olympian rivalry, a lesson in civility from Indian and Pakistani mothers. You all remember the story of Arshad and Neeraj, the javelin throwers, the Olympian javelin throwers. And people who are poets, and these are three of my friends who I lost over the last few years, who stood for peace, who I wrote about. Some people like Kamala Haseen, and this. Yeah, this is the last slide. I'm ending here right now. And so this is what we are trying to do, to connect the dots and to bring nuance and empathy and talk about behind the headlines. And to say, can we agree on a minimum common agenda for the sake of the people of South Asia? Thank you so much.